Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. A months-long inquiry into corruption and bad governance in the British Virgin Islands has recommended the government be dissolved. On Thursday, the elected leader of the UK Overseas Territory was arrested in a separate sting operation by US drugs officials. The inquiry also said the BVI constitution should be suspended and direct rule by London imposed. John Rankin is the island's governor.
The Commissioner in his report finds that the elected government in successive administrations has sought to avoid good governance. Almost everywhere, principles such as openness, transparency and the rule of law are ignored.
The British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss said a clear path forward would be announced, but the acting Premier of the BVI, Natalio Wheatley, said suspending the constitution wasn't necessary. His predecessor, Andrew Fahie, is appearing in court today after he was detained in Miami by agents posing as cocaine smugglers from a Mexican cartel. The head of a mosque in the Afghan capital, Kabul, says at least 50 worshippers have been killed by a powerful explosion that struck just after Friday prayers. The Taliban authorities are quoting a much lower figure. Sanjay Dasgupta reports.
This is the latest in a spate of attacks on places of worship across Afghanistan during Ramadan. It came as the congregation gathered for a religious remembrance after the prayers at the Khalifa Sahib Mosque in western Kabul. The head of the mosque said it was believed a suicide bomber had joined the ceremony. The religious observance of zikr, which the congregation had gathered for after their Friday prayers, is practiced by some Muslims but seen as heretical by hardline Sunni groups. But so far, no group has said it was responsible.
A British Islamic State group, Militant, has been sentenced to life in prison in the United States for the kidnapping and beheading of hostages in Syria. Alexander Coty pleaded guilty last September. Along with 3 others, Coty was involved in the killings of several hostages. Here's Sarah Smith.
Alexander Coty was sentenced to life on 8 counts of conspiracy and hostage-taking resulting in death. The judge could recommend that he be separated from other inmates and kept in near solitary confinement. His co-accused El Shafi El Sheikh was also in court. He'll be sentenced later this year. Relatives of some of those kidnapped and murdered by the IS terror cell appeared in a courtroom in Virginia today to speak of the uncertainty they felt when their loved ones were in captivity and the shattering news of their deaths.
Heavy fighting is continuing in eastern Ukraine, where Russian forces are trying to take the entire Donbas region. A presidential advisor said Ukraine had taken serious losses, but Russian casualties had been colossal. British defence officials said there had been particularly intense clashes around the city of Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. The governor of Kharkiv region said 5 civilians were killed there. BBC News. Russia's central bank has lowered its key interest rate from 17% to 14%, a bigger than expected cut. The bank's governor, Elvira Nubiulina, said the decision was taken because inflationary pressures were no longer rising. She said Russia had the resources to avoid any sovereign default, but admitted international sanctions made the situation very uncertain. The European Union's border agency Frontex has confirmed that its head, Fabrice Leggeri, has resigned with immediate effect. It follows an investigation into Frontex by the EU's anti-fraud agency over accusations it was aware of migrants being mistreated but failed to act. It's faced specific allegations that it was involved in illegal pushbacks of migrants in the Aegean Sea between Turkey and Greece, while in post Mr Leggeri rejected those accusations. The 6-times Grand Slam tennis champion Boris Becker has been given a 2.5-year prison sentence for illegally concealing hundreds of thousands of dollars in assets in a bankruptcy case. The judge in London told him he would serve half of the sentence. Here's Natalie Perks.
He'd been accused of hiding millions of pounds worth of assets, including 2 Wimbledon trophies, to avoid paying debts from when he was found bankrupt back in 2017. And then around 3 weeks ago, he'd been found guilty of 4 of the 24 charges or counts against him, including transferring cash to avoid paying those creditors, failing to disclose a property worth more than £1 million in Germany, and concealing debt worth £700,000.
A British MP has been suspended from the governing Conservative Party while he's investigated over allegations that he watched pornography in the House of Commons. Neil Parish reported himself to the parliamentary authorities and says he'll await their findings. 2 female colleagues complained earlier this week that they had seen him looking at adult content on his phone while sitting near them. BBC News.